So I made many body game videos, and I like to joke around these big back, beluga back whales. But today I'm going to get a little deeper on a more serious note. So I've talked to many guys that have been trying to lose weight, and it's a struggle a lot of times. And I have a lot of sympathy towards these guys, even though I might talk shit, I might make fun. It's all out of love at the end of the day. And being fat is a shameful thing. I just want to get that out the way. But I've talked to guys and say, look, it's not your fault, but you decide what you do now. Right? Because a lot of guys that are super overweight, they were just raised in households where that was the norm. And we know we have a lot of chemicals in our food that turn it on for you to really start eating more. The foods we are eating aren't even food. It's a whole bunch of chemicals that make you more hungry, that don't add any nutrients to your diet. So now you're always lazy, you don't feel good, and then you wonder why. You were just doing what you were shown. You were just running on that same programming. And that's why I say I have a very hard time hating anybody. Even when I talked about a girl I used to mess with and, she was acting like a 304. So I can't hate her because I understand her upbringing. I understand why she thinks the way she does and acts the way she acts. So how could I hate her when she's really just a victim? And I know I've said before, like, I never look at it as I'm a victim. I always look on the bright side of things. But I think when you really analyzing where you at and why you have the habits you have, you really have to dig deep into it, man. Because when I think about it, like, when I was watching pornography every day, was that my decision? Yeah, but I was misguided to think that was okay. And in modern society, they teach you being fat is okay. They teach you being a slur is okay to these women, So when she's slanging that coochie, she's getting more attention, so she keeps doing it. When you're overweight, they say, oh, you shouldn't fat shame. You should love your body. So you think it's okay, and everybody around you, you see they are fat too. And that's why when you get on Body Game, when you get in good shape, some people will shame you for being in good shape. Some people will talk shit to you because you're in better shape than them. I promise you. I would see certain people acting weird the more lean I got, and I would always wonder why. But it's because the more in shape you get, the better you are, the more you grow, the more they reflect on themselves and the lies they've been telling themselves their whole life and the lies that have been fed to them by society. So if you're fat, your parents fat, it's not your fault. But now it is your fault if you don't decide to change. And that's the important thing. It's are you going to decide to improve? And most people aren't going to decide to change and improve. Most people stay with that same programming they were given at a young age. They don't change. And most people aren't happy with the lives they are living, and you can see it in people's day-to-day action. And that's why I tell y'all guys, like, I'll talk about my dad many times, and I learned a lot from my dad. But one of the main things I had to unlearn from what he taught me is that relationships aren't important. Relationships are extremely important. And that's why I told y'all about his business and what he does. Kind of that trick mentality. I told you guys about that not to degrade him, but to explain the whole situation. And I didn't give y'all the details because I wasn't trying to put it all out there. But I tell y'all guys that to say this. You have to understand why you do the things you do. You have to understand what triggers that so you can now do the opposite. But a lot of people won't accept reality. They'll just cope. So instead of my dad saying, oh, relationships are important, I just don't feel like going out there and meeting people, there's too much pain, he'll just say, oh, I don't care about relationships, then have a half-assed relationship. A lot of people will cope and say, oh, I don't care about being in shape. Or you see a lot of big back, beluga back whale chicks. They'll say, oh, I don't like the guy that's in shape. But really, they just don't want to get in shape. So they don't qualify for that man that's in shape. The guy in shape, he might smash that big back. But a lot of times, the guy that's in really good shape, the attractive guy, he's not going to stick around with that big back. He's just going to blow that back out at nighttime. On the weekend, maybe every now and then. So that's why a lot of times she'll lie and say, oh, I don't want to be skinny. They'll come up with all these lies. And if you've ever been around a really big person, you look regular, you're skinny. Because I remember even when I worked at that soul food restaurant, they would call me skinny. And I'm just like, I'm not skinny. I'm 6 foot, 183 pounds. How is that skinny? By any means, how is that skinny? But they changed their standards because a lot of people came in that restaurant, they were overweight. That soul food, they were overweight. So now they look at someone that's normal, that has decent amount of muscle on him, and they'll consider me skinny. they have to live in delusion. And that's why a lot of times when you grow, when you develop yourself, people aren't going to like it. People are going to shame you. People are going to talk down on you when you really get on body game a lot of times. And that's why you see the major downside to body game sometimes. Because you think everybody would be happy, everybody would be proud. But let's say you're a fat guy and you lose weight. You get slim and trim like a bicycle rim, and now everybody's looking at you like, dang. Now that's making a reflection on themselves. Dang, your son got in shape. Oh, dang, your brother got in shape. Now you're looking at yourself like, wow, I'm slacking. Because a lot of people like to blame their genetics instead of looking at the reality of things. And like I said, you've been set up for failure. You've been set up to be fat. You've been set up to be lazy. You've been set up to not have any critical thinking skills. I got on TikTok today, getting a lot of these lives, and some people have no critical thinking skills at all. They watch the news and they just repeat what they hear on the TV. They don't think anything out. They can't think past the surface level. Now, sometimes I think the government really wants Americans to be stupid, so they just go back and forth arguing while we all get screwed over without even realizing it. Like, you should really think, like, this should really be an uproar about why we have so many harmful chemicals in our food, but we have an uproar about TikTok. We have an uproar about goofy stuff like that. But we aren't concerned with the real issues. Because we have a goldfish brain. We have TikTok brain. We can't pay attention for more than 5 seconds. So I just want to let y'all guys know you have been set up for failure, but you don't have to stay on that path. You can change that path today, and I always tell you guys, start by one little action. Just take that first step. Don't be trying to go 0 to 100. You've been living like a shit ass for your whole life. But realize you have been set up to be a failure. Realize you have been set up to be addicted to pornography. You've been set up to be addicted to weed, to be an alcoholic. You've been set up to be a loser. Sometimes you have to take a step back and say, like, no, I want more than this for my life. I want more than this. I'm better than this. I refuse to live a life like everybody else. And see, when I talk about my dad, a lot of people live just like my dad. They cope. A lot of you guys can probably look around and you see an alcoholic, a pothead, or you might be one yourself. You don't want to live in reality, and instead of saying that you don't like your reality, you just try to escape it. Through video games, through watching TV, through drugs. Because you don't want to face reality. Because sometimes facing reality is hard. So you rather take the easy way out. Because your whole life you've been taught to take the easy way out. And see, society has really tapped into your psychology. They've taken advantage. They understand your nature more than you understand your own nature. And this is why I would tell you guys, if you don't have goals, if you don't have your own ambition, people are going to find goals for you. And usually it's not for your greater good. Usually it's not going to benefit you. Because I promise you guys, this society, this government, who's ever in office, they don't care about you. They don't care if you have bad mental health. They don't care if you have bad physical health. As long as you keep going to work and doing your job and the GDP keeps growing, that's all they care about. Right side, left side, it doesn't matter. And they prefer you to argue with each other so you don't wake up to the fact that we all are getting screwed. To the fact that we supposedly live in the greatest country in the world, but half our food is crap. 40% obesity rate. You walk around a whole bunch of people depressed and stressed. But we're the greatest country to ever live. Did that make sense to you? I'm just asking questions. Does that make sense to you? Because it's kind of confusing to me when I think about it. So supposedly we're the greatest country, but our obesity is 40%. We have mass shootings on a regular basis. But we're the freest country. But everybody's enslaved mentally. Just something to think about. Like I said, I don't hate anybody for being fat or for being a slur. I understand they're running on that program. And I don't want to be on that program, so I try to avoid people on that programming. But like I said, you decide who you are. I take blame for everything. But at the end of the day, we all are victims of society. But let today be the day you wake up and say, I don't want to be on that programming anymore. It's time to rewire certain things. Because we get this one life. Why go through it sad, depressed, fat? Because most of these people that cope and say, oh, I'm just big bone and stuff like that, if you could change anything, you'd want to be healthy. I see these big women on TikTok. Oh, I prefer to be big. I just don't like how my doctor gives me crap for it. And it's like, people are coping. And a lot of times people cope because they don't like their reality. People will say they're happy, but you look at their life like, you're not really happy. So I say all that to say this, man. Whether you grew up in a broken family, you grew up around a whole bunch of overweight people, obese was the norm for you, or even if there's a couple women and they watching this and your mother was a slower, you decide what path you go down. And that's why I encourage you guys to really look at your parents and analyze them. What were they good at? What were they bad at? Because you get your genetics from them. Learn from them what you can. And sometimes you're learning what to do and you're learning what not to do. My dad's the one that put me on Body Game. My dad was the one that being around him made me want to keep on learning, keep on growing. We would drive to the gym every Saturday and he would always have something playing. Now, he was into a whole bunch of spiritual stuff, but he was always looking to grow. Now, I think that's very important. And that taught me at a young age, always be growing, always be trying to learn. And it taught me that you need to be in that gym. And that gave me a leg up on a lot of guys. But that's all I got for y'all today. I'll catch y'all boys in the next one.